Kunda Vihari Gopi Ganava Girivara Gopi Ganava Girivara Janananda Raja Janananda Yashodananda Raja Janananda Yashodananda Raja Janananda Yashodananda Raja Janananda Yamuna Tira Jari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Go Premanandi Shri Prabhupada ki jai Mantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Takotiyo Bhav Mahotsava ki Oh, glorious to the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious to Sri Guru Garango, glorious to Sri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sanyavari Pastichari Shitari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya We have a Srimad Bhagavatam. Is the verse available on the screen, on the board, or somewhere? It would be useful. Go sideways. Yeah, because it's the book we need to light. Is the verse on the board? Yes. Text number? 7. Hare Krishna. Those who arrived yesterday from Ireland and from Australia and a few other places maybe. Welcome. Thank you for coming to this festival of worshipping our Parampara, worshipping the holy name and their lordships, of course, and the devotees, and Srimad Bhagavatam. The 5 primary, say, devotional practices, nectar of devotion, to associate with devotees. We hope that we'll have positive association. To reside in a holy place. This tract of land has been made holy by Srila Prabhupada's coming here. The deities installed Krishna Balaram by Srila Prabhupada, going to Thai even before. It's holy by all the devotees who, over generations now, 50 or more years, have been serving here. The holy name has been chanted, we don't know how many times, but many times. And so many other transcendental activities have taken place here, so it's a holy place. The deities have been worshipped here since 1975. Gaunitai was installed in December 75 and 76 Krishna Balaram came. So this is the 50th anniversary of Krishna Balaram's installation. Srila Prabhupada's main visit to New Mayapur was in 76, in the August of 76. He initiated many devotees that time also. So worshipping of the deities, very essential. The chanting of the holy name, when Prabhupada was here, he inquired whether Sankirtan was going on regularly, and the devotees replied, once a week, Srila Prabhupada, we go to the city. And Prabhupada said, why only once a week? Kirtan should go on constantly if possible, at least every day. He said, here in the temple, even if you don't go out to the city or wherever, in the temple the kirtan should go on. For kirtan, an essential practice of this movement. And study of Srimad Bhagavatam. So all 5 of these devotional practices should be readily available here in New Mayapur. We should try to take advantage of them. And Goswami says even by one of these practices alone, we have to enter into it deeply, one can attain perfection. So this morning, all those activities going on, we're associating, chanted, tried to, the Mahamantra, the deities here, mercifully seeing us. We sometimes talk about seeing the deities, but the deeper understanding is the deities are seeing us. This is not usually how we see it, but this is what's really going on. And we're associating with the holy name and with the holy Dharma. And now we'll associate in the association of devotees with Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll read text number 7. Please repeat. Katang va Pandaveyasya Rajasher Munina Saha Sangvadaha Samabhut Tata Yatraisha Satvati Shrutihi Katam va Pandaveyasya Rajasher Munina Saha Sangvarak Samabhuttata Yatraisha Satvati Shrutihi Katam va Pandaveyasya Rajasher Munina Saha Sangvarak Samabhuttata Yatraisha Satvati Shrutihi Katam va Pandaveyasya Rajasher Munina Saha Sangvara Samabhuttata Yatraisha Satvati Shrutihi Katam va Pandaveyasya Rajasher Munina Saha Sambhara Samabhuttata Yatraisha satvati shrutihi Katam va pandave yasya Rajasya munina saha Samvada sambuddhata Yatraisha satvati shrutihi Katam va pandave yasya Rajasya munina saha Samvada samabuddhata Yatraisha satvati shrutihi Ladies, any ladies, Vaishnavis, come on. Katanva pandavayasya Rajasya munina saha Samvara samabuddhata Yatraisha satvati shrutihi Katam, how is it? Va, also, Pandavayasya, of the descendants of Pandu, Parikshit, Vajashehe, of the king, who was a sage, Munina, with the Muni, Saha, with, Sangvadaha, discussion, Samabhut, took place, Tata, O darling, Yatra, whereupon, Aisha, like this, Satvati, transcendental, Shrutihi, essence of the Vedas. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. How did it so happen that King Parikshit met this great sage, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of the Vedas to be sung to him? Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is stated here as the essence of the Vedas. It is not an imaginary story, as it is sometimes considered by unauthorized men. It is also called Shuka Samhita, or the Vedic hymn spoken by Sri Shukadev Goswami, the great liberated sage. That is the short purport of this verse. It's a question which is being posed. This chapter is just starting, of course, this section of the appearance of Narada Muni before Vyasadeva. So these are questions posed by the sages of Naimisharanya. Srimad Bhagavatam is compiled, as we know, by Sri Vyasadeva. In fact, the first verse of this chapter was spoken by Vyasa himself, or written by Vyasa. On hearing Sutta Goswami speak thus, he says, Chanaka Muni, who was the elderly, learned leader of all the rishis, engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Sutta Goswami by addressing him as follows. Sutta Goswami has already responded to the inquiries of the sages of Naimishranya headed by Shonak Rishi. They inquired on many subject matters. Particularly, they wanted to ascertain what was the most essential of all scriptures in this Kali Yuga, and what is the remedial measure to counteract the ill effects of this age. And they personally, very much, and for the benefit of all, wanted to hear about the pastimes and the activities and the various incarnations of the personality of Godhead, and so on. Various inquiries they made, requests, which were addressed and are continuing to be addressed by Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami is not the same as Sukha Goswami, Sukadev. Sukadev, as we're hearing in this particular verse, was the speaker of the Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. Sutta Goswami happened to be there when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking Bhagavatam. And thus, Sutta Goswami, having heard very carefully, as we saw in the previous chapter, how Srila Vyasadeva, yes, it is. I'll just read it. This Srimad Bhagavatam, this is a famous verse, text number 40. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. He's incarnation of God. Sometimes we may not have a very deep understanding, but sometimes we forget, or we don't include the aspect of the incarnation of God that the Lord through others does what his purpose is. Known as Shakti-Avesh, the Lord is not that the Jiva himself is cognizant, fully cognizant, but through the Jiva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead speaks or acts, whatever. In this case, reveals. Vyasadeva is the repository, the receiver of the Shakti of the Lord. Shakti, same with Lord Brahma, he receives the power to create. He's also known sometimes as an incarnation, generally Shakti-Vesh, empowered by the Lord to do the work of the Lord. To some small degree, every living entity is empowered a little bit, but not significantly like this. So, Vyasadeva is generally known as Shakti-Vesh, because through him the Lord reveals himself, in one sense, as we see that in a few verses. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It's not meant really just to satisfy our immediate, materialistically speaking, our immediate needs, but our ultimate, what is ultimately good for all people. And it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. With our imperfect vision, we may see sometimes a little differently. But because our vision is imperfect, naturally we see things imperfectly. But actually, Srimad Bhagavatam is absolute, is perfect. Srila Vyasadeva delivered this Srimad Bhagavatam to his son. Srila Vyasadeva's son was, of course, Shukadeva Goswami, who happened to be in the womb of Vyasa's wife when Srila Vyasadeva was reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam. And the child in the womb heard it. Srila Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, who is the most respected among the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. The cream, everybody is aware of the nature of cream. Every part of milk is important, but the cream is the richest, is the condensed, most condensed. Are we translating or not? No. Maybe we're taking a break. Is a translation going on? No. Okay. Not today. So the cream we see in the first, right at the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, in the third verse of the first chapter, described, O expert and thoughtful men, relish this Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literature. Another example given here is cream is like the most condensed aspect of milk. So similarly, the ripened fruit, it's the ripened fruit, most mature of all the Vedic literature, sweetest, the essence. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. It's not just some analogy of some kind. Sukha means parrot, and generally speaking, we don't see parrots around here much, but in some places there's a lot of parrots. And parrot has a characteristic of, it loves sweet, ripe, mature fruits. They peck into the fruit, enjoy the sweetness of the fruit. It's said that it makes the fruit even sweeter. I don't know exactly how, but it's said like that. So similarly, when a pure devotee, in this case Shukadeva Goswami, repeats that message which he's heard, the message becomes sweeter to the hearer, depending on obviously the receptivity of the hearer also has to be there. The subject matter becomes sweeter as we churn it. Vaishnavas churn. They churn transcendental topics. This way it becomes, as you churn butter, it turns into ghee. As you churn cream, also, or yogurt, can turn into butter. Like that. By churning. One has to churn. Shukadeva Goswami. And how is it churning? By the questions of Sutta Goswami speaking just now anyway. And by the questions it abstracts. The sages are expert and thoughtful men mentioned here. It's a general statement. Relish this Srimad Bhagavatam by churning it. Most devotees like curd. They like butter. Anyone from Australia? Any Aussies? You're from Australia. They make sabji in Australia. At least they used to. I don't know if you still do. Sabji means, if you're making one pot for maybe 40 of us here, making a pot of sabji for, like, say, 50 devotees. So 5 liters of sour cream, 2 kilos of ghee, 2 bars of butter, 5 liters of cream, isn't it? 10 kilos of curd and 1 packet of peas. Sabji. Sabji, Prabhu. Wow, fantastic sabji. Hey, give me the curd. Prabhu, would you like some sabji? Yeah, give me the curd. Sometimes there's no sabji at all. Just milk products, all milk products practically. Sabji. Sabji means vegetables. Huh? Yeah, paneer, curd. Sometimes curd means yogurt, but we used to go curd, the curd way. It was the paneer, what we call that paneer. Fried, has to be fried. Put it in plain. It has to be deep fried in ghee. Oh no, you don't need to give her ideas. Yes. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. That's the nature of the spiritual realm. It becomes ever tasty. In the material world, maybe for a little while, things become a little more tastier. How much paneer can you eat? Maybe 4 or 5, depends how big squares or circles are. And then, there's a limit. Whatever it is, gulabs are usually known. Gulabs. Sweet, very tasty. A limit to how many we can eat. After some time, the taste becomes almost sickly. It's limited. It's not limited on the spiritual platform like that. Everything. Plus, it's not that anyone's eating simply to enjoy. Everything is in relationship to Krishna for his pleasure. But the pleasure ever increases. It doesn't have a limit. There's no limit. In the material world, everything has a limit, measurable. And then there's a law, the economic law, the law of diminishing returns. If you keep putting something into something, eventually it starts going down. You have to find different outlets and so on. The nature of material pleasure. So this subject matter, if you read something, I don't know, Jyoti was saying the other day, Jyoti Vacha, but it's not an absolute fact. But anyway, he was mentioning it, maybe a bit jokey, that the most read books next to Bhagavad Gita is the most read book in the world next to the Bible and Harry Potter. But somebody said that's not actually true. But anyway, whatever. Probably not. The Quran would probably be much more. So anyway, whatever it is, it is. But if you read, although the name Hari is there, it's not necessarily understood to be a name of God or Krishna. Hari Potter. You can read it over and over and over, maybe a few times, but I mean, you can't. What do you get out of it? How much more can you squeeze out of it? You go potty, as they say in English. If you read it too many times, you go potty. That means crazy. But Bhagavad Gita, you can read over and over and over and over, never ending. It gets deeper and deeper and deeper. What to speak of Srimad Bhagavatam? It never becomes dry. Of course, if we become dry, that's another thing. The subject matter never becomes dry. It becomes ever relishable, deeper and deeper. As Sanjaya at the end, relishing the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? Hear over and over again, hears the standing on end, hearing the words of Lord Krishna becomes ever relishable. You just have to churn it, and the essential environment or association of devotees is the platform. On our own, of course something's there, but it becomes much more enjoyable. Not saying enjoyable may not be the right word, but relishable in the association of devotees. It's like trying to enjoy on your own. So you try. Generally, when you want to enjoy, Prabhupada uses the example, especially with sex life, you generally enjoy with someone else. The general, a much more complete form of relish. So similarly, hearing subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and transcendental literature are most relished by this process of association, hearing, chanting, and so on. So we go back to where we were in the third chapter. So this is the nectarian fruit. Vyasadeva extracted the cream of all the Vedic literatures and histories. And that we'll hear later on in the chapter you're going to read here, chapter 4, how Narada Muni chastised Sri Vyasadeva also, directed him in this way to present the cream clearly, not just. Now we have, you see milk nowadays is mostly, you can get unhomogenized, of course, but mostly milk is stabilized, standardized, homogenized, this thing, that thing. And it all looks one. There might be a little cream in there, but you can't ascertain its presence. It's mixed. It's been reconstituted, so it's not in the form of cream. You can't identify it in the milk. Merged. So the subject matter of the absolute truth, the subject matter of Krishna to Bhagavan Swayam, was basically hidden or merged into the entirety of the Vedas, a little bit coming to the surface sometimes, but not clear. Very difficult for people to ascertain the ultimate goal of the Vedas. In fact, because it's the way it is, generally people ascertain an impersonal objective of the Veda. It is homogenized. It's all reconstituted. It's all like one. In that sense, not easy to extract. So, too easy Narada Muni's business and the business of the acharyas to make it clear what is the ultimate goal. What is the ultimate goal? Not just what is a relative goal, but an ultimate one. Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn, delivered the Bhagavatam to the great Emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges awaiting death without taking food or drink. No interest. Prabhupada describes how this is an excellent way. I'm not sure in this purport, but in one purport describing this, Prabhupada says that this is the excellent way of how this Krishna conscious movement will spread. It's not that we have to, artificially sit on the banks of the river, river Cher, banks of the river Cher, not eating and not sleeping and not drinking. And then that way the movement will spread. What it means is that Parikshit Maharaj's absorption, focus was completely on the words of Sukadeva Goswami, hearing and chanting the message of Bhagavatam. And that way he had no interest in anything else. It's not a matter of just cutting off interest, it's a matter of absorbing one in itself, or one's consciousness in this subject matter. Not so easy for us conditioned souls, maybe sometimes. But most of the time our mind is elsewhere, activities are elsewhere. Our desires are not perhaps as strong as we would hope they would be for Krishna consciousness. But Parikshit Maharaj wanted to hear nothing else. Nothing else. He just wanted to hear Shukadeva Goswami speak on the topic of Krishna consciousness. Our desire, our attention, our consciousness comes in that way, then naturally we'll lose attraction for hearing mundane topics, for engaging in mundane activity. We will have no more interest in putting ourselves in the center and so on. We'll be completely absorbed in Krishna Katha, and that's the way it works. That's what Prabhupada is inferring. As devotees are on that platform, this movement will normally naturally spread because one becomes a walking, living Bhagavat. This Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun. Now, this is one of the most famous verses in the Bhagavatam. Krishne sadam upagate dharma jnana dvisaha kalo nashta dvisham mesha purana kodunoditaha. This Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun, giving an example within our experience. Is much more brilliant than the sun. Maybe, in a different way, but much more brilliant. But we can't, unfortunately, we don't have the eyes to look at the sun, but we can experience the effect of the sun. We can experience the effect of the Bhagavatam if we come into the sunlight or the association of the Bhagavatam. And it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode. This is the answer to one of the most significant. To whom of religious principles gone now that Lord Krishna has left this world? Where do we go? So Sri Goswami is saying this Srimad Bhagavatam is that abode, is that shelter. Krishna has left, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. This guises, just like it's dark winter season, you more or less need a torch to move around. And the full moon night, maybe not, if it's not cloudy. But generally you need a torch because it's dark, guiding us. It's not in of itself. Bhagavatam acts as both like a lamp as well as the sun. It's both. But definitely for us, it's like a torch, giving us guidance, as Sutta says here. Those who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. By regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, the darkness, clouds are removed, the curtains are removed. Oh, the very last verse is interesting. The previous chapter. Oh, learned Brahmins, the sages of Naimishrana, there's many of them. O learned Brahmins, when Shukadeva Goswami recited Srimad Bhagavatam there, in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. Herein is the secret of hearing Bhagavatam. Sutta Goswami says, I heard him with rapt. Maybe not everybody knows what rapt means. Rapt there's several words in English which are actually different meanings and sound fairly similar. Well, in this case, what does wrapped mean? It's not the wrapped when you wrap a parcel, you wrapped. Parcel's wrapped in paper or something. It's not that one exactly. What does it mean? Pardon?
Focused.
Very focused, yeah, it's a good word to use. Yes?
Does it have something to do with rapture?
With what?
Rapture.
Rapture, that's interesting. I'd not thought of that. What is rapture?
It's spelled differently, rapture. R-A-P-T, is it not?
Yeah, R-A-P-T-U-R-E is rapture.
Yeah, and
So
rapt is R-A-P-T, or is it W-R-A-P-T?
it's R-A-P-T. Yeah, focus. And rapture, which obviously is related. What is rapture? When someone says rapture. Pardon?
Ecstasy. Ecstasy, bliss.
Happiness.
Deep. Huh?
Like burst, rupture, like something that bursts.
Rupture or that's rupture or rapture. Look it up in the dictionary, exactly what it says. Just happiness, nothing else. Simply happiness. Rapture. There may be a few other, meanings of the word rapture. Intensive happiness. So it may be related, but basically rapt is more completely focused, undivided devotional service, anyabilasa type. It is not. It's completely focused on that one point. There's no other. It's like you're looking through a lens. It's completely clear. There's no other. It's not diverted in one direction. It's not covered by anything. Completely absorbed in the subject. Completely. So that was how we heard this great subject matter. I heard. Did you look it up already? Rapture. What's it saying?
Intense pleasure or joy.
Intense. Okay, just intense. Intense pleasure or joy is complete. I mean, it's not really complete, but it's as complete as you can think. It's very intense. So similarly, rapt attention would be complete attention. Complete, unalloyed attention.
It says in the dictionary,
Pardon?
It says in the dictionary that rapt means completely fascinated or absorbed by what one is seeing or hearing.
Completely fascinated or absorbed in what one is
Seeing or
seeing or
hearing.
hearing. So that's just an extensive definition there of this subject matter. Completely absorbed, complete absorption. So definitely some connection there. Complete absorption. The result of that complete absorption is you become raptured. Completely, huh? Deeply satisfied. Satiated. But you want more. You're never fully satiated. One wants more and more and more. This is another aspect of it. It never has an end. I heard him with rapt attention, and thus, by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam. So two things there, isn't it? In deep, rapt hearing and mercy. It's not just by the mechanical process. Prabhupada says in the purport, I won't read the whole purport, but somewhere down there he says, Prabhupada says, one should hear with rapt attention from the real person, and then he can at once realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every page. The secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. One of the reasons that we have 4 regulated principles. You may like it or not like it, but as long as we're indulging in these activities, eating meat, and drinking liquor, and smoking, and having illicit sex, and gambling, and all these things, we will never be able to properly understand Bhagavatam. There may be some sentiment, attraction there, but to actually realize will not be there. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Again, why the Vedic system is there, the Varnashram system is there to facilitate this preliminary requirement for human beings. But somehow or another, if someone hears with rapt attention from the right person, at the very beginning one can assuredly see Lord Krishna in person in the pages of Bhagavatam. One sets to see. the result of hearing with rapt attention from the right person. We probably don't quite hear with rapt attention. Maybe we hear from the right person or not, but we have to hear with rapt attention. But that is not all, Prabhupada says. And we go back in the purple a little bit here. Prabhupada says, simple. Oh, we read that. What does he say? One must realize the text with proper attention. Oh, that's a little later. In the 7th chapter, I'll just read this amazing statement of Prabhupada. Text number 6 of the 7th chapter. Here. Revival of the dormant affection or love of Godhead does not depend on the mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but it solely and wholly, that means entirely, depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. So mercy is also humility. We realize on our own, simply by reading and chanting, we're not going to attain that state of realization. We're not Mayavad is, or something we're not supposed to be anyway. But by hearing from the representative of the Lord, humbly, submissively, this is the means. Try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire submissively, render service. This is the process. Humility, submitting ourselves humbly. The hardest thing of all. We have a tendency to see it and do it our way. Surrender is not an easy thing, especially in this Kali Yuga. We're not trained in that way anyway. Now he says, I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. So that's another aspect of having heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, as one wants others to hear it. So Sutta Goswami, taking that cue, has now gone to Naimishrami forest, where great sages were assembled, who were very concerned about this age of Kali. So they're sort of trying to, amongst themselves, ascertain what can be done to counteract, or at least give the conditioned souls in this age a chance. So when Sutta Goswami comes, they accept him as their chairperson and address him with their various questions, and now he's been answering those questions one by one. And here the sages have been asking this question, which is today's verse. It's very nice. I'm going to read the previous verses. First verse of the 4th chapter. On hearing Sutta Goswami speak thus, in the previous chapter, Sutta Goswami has described the various, some of them, incarnations of Godhead, and has made it quite clear, Eti Changsatra Pungsam, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Of all the various incarnations of Godhead, or forms of Godhead, Krishna is not an incarnation, he's not an avatar, he's avatari. But he says Krishna is the origin of all. He's the cause of all causes. He is the original. So that statement of Sutta Goswami found basically forms the essential conclusion, or the objective goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to establish that beyond and above everything that exists, including the various angsas and everything else expanding from the Lord, that Krishna is the origin of everything. He's the supreme summum bonum. So they congratulate him On hearing this, Shonaka congratulated Sutta by addressing as follows. Shonaka said to Sutta Goswami, "O Sutta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadeva Goswami." They're eager to hear. Eagerness, lolyam, is sometimes said to be the price of Krishna consciousness. Goswami describes it like that. This is our price, this eagerness to hear. We may not have so much eagerness. We may be eager to hear other things, maybe eager to hear about ourselves being glorified, or eager to hear some mundane subject. In what period and what place was this first begun, and why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? His son, Vyasadeva's son, was a great devotee, an equibalanced monist, whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was on the platform of Brahman. He was transcendental to mundane activities, but being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person. Interesting little sector here. Well, Srila Vyasadeva, because when Sukadeva Goswami stayed 16 years in the womb of his mother, I mean, this sounds unbelievable by modern experience. And, we tend to judge everything by our temporary experience now and whatever little knowledge we have. But this is the statement of Shastra. He spent 16 years in his mother's womb, and he didn't want to come out because, didn't really want to come into the material world. But eventually he came out after 16 years of the womb, and basically he just left home. And Vyasadeva then was following. While Srila Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels who were bathing naked covered their bodies with cloth, although Sri Vyasadeva himself was not naked. But they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this, and the young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them, made no distinction between male and female. But the sage made such distinctions. As Vyasadeva was a grihastha, you could say, or vanaprastha, or whatever. And there's an example being given here. One's on the transcendental platform doesn't make that distinction. Those who in any way conditioned are, therefore, that has to be very careful. We're not here to try to enjoy the duality of this world. We're here to become free of that, to enter into the absolute nature, or the transcendental nature of devotional service. Therefore, certain regulations, restrictions are there, according to one's level of involvement, but to help release us, not to satisfy our material desires, so to speak. To some extent that may be there, but that's not the goal. The goal is to release us from this trap of absorption in material sense gratification. In the next verse, how was he, Sri Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyas, recognized by the citizens when he entered the city of Hastinapura, and wandering in the provinces of Kuru and Jangala, appearing like a madman, dumb and retarded? He was naked, of course. He was completely naked. He had no concept of, let's say, no differentiation. Everything to him was spiritual. How did it so happen that King Parikshit met this great sage, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of the Vedas to be sung to him? That's today's verse. How did it happen? So they want to know. And it's a fascinating topics related to Krishna. Great devotees, even the Battle of Kurukshetra is related to Krishna. Devotees are interested to hear about it. Anything related, Krishna's never alone, his associates are there. So this whole, now we're going to get the opportunity to associate with Narada Muni, and a very important discussion will take place relevant to all of us, and unfolding or let's say, the cause of the manifestation of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam is about to happen. Through the agency of Narada Muni, who will inspire Vyasadeva to accept this task, to be the instrument through which Srimad Bhagavatam will be revealed. And now we're fortunate we have this opportunity through the same principle, Parampara, disciplic succession. Srila Prabhupada himself also has revealed Srimad Bhagavatam to the world in general, previously more or less hidden amongst a few fortunate souls, no doubt. Whether they were taking full advantage or whether we're taking full advantage is another thing, but practically the world was unaware of Srimad Bhagavatam. Practically unaware. Maybe a little aware of Gita, although not understanding the message properly. But Bhagavatam was unheard of. Srila Prabhupada is now informing the world of the Srimad Bhagavatam, why it's so important. No one else. It's not enough just to know who we are. It's not enough just to know how to get free of karmas. It's not enough just to know certain aspects of the absolute truth. We have to actually, the realization and the actual enter into the absorption has to be there. Srimad Bhagavatam is to absorb us, to capture us and absorb us in that realm of transcendence. Okay, well, we're finished there for today. Any questions?
Maharaj, excuse me. When Sutta Goswami left the banks of the Ganges after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, how much time elapsed before he went to the forest of Janananda?
That's a good question. Let me see now, I've got my answer. 6 months, 2 weeks, 3 days, 15 minutes and 25 seconds. Any other questions? Some time elapsed. Exactly how much, I don't know if it's described anywhere, but time elapsed. He wasn't the only one who did this, by the way. Other sages who were there also went to other places and recited the subject matter, maybe not exactly the same aspect of it, but they recited it. I can't remember their names, but one went to South India, I think one went to the Himalayas and so on, and recited it in the association of others. But in our line, this is our Srimad Bhagavatam that we hear from Sutta Goswami, basically. It's a fascinating topic, which we tend to see things in terms of measurements, time, place, circumstance. According to our experience, we try to box things in without understanding that these topics are not necessarily, there may be some degree of measurability if you want to look at it like that, but they're not limited by such measures. They have on a different plane of time. So, but externally, some time expired. Exactly how much I don't know if I ever heard. I remember this topic when we were in Naimishranya one time. One very learned devotee was describing, I don't know, about 30 years ago, was describing all various aspects which we don't normally hear, which are presumably described in various Puranas in terms of these things. The Bhagavatam is not like it's exclusive. If you read Padma Purana and other Puranas also describe many of the subject matters which we hear in the Bhagavatam. It's just the Bhagavatam has condensed it all into one. Whereas these other Puranas is like mixed with many other subjects and so on. So it may be described there. I remember hearing these things about, how after Shukadeva Goswami spoke, different sages took that message and delivered at least a certain extent of it to their disciples or to people elsewhere, sages and so on. That's the business, to spread it. very important question, but I'm sorry I can't go into more details. I don't have it. Anything else? Yes.
Shukadeva Goswami is addressed as a monist. He's called a monist. Is there any significance?
Monist, yeah. Moaning.
Any particular reason why he was just like, in this state of a monist rather than a devotee?
Well, he said, yeah. Sometimes we see that the eternal associates of the Lord, now it's a big subject, but let's keep it simple, but the eternal associates of the Lord sometimes take different roles for different purposes. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared to be worshipper, Shakti worshipper at one time, somewhat impersonal, not acting as a pure Vaishnava. The Rupa and Sanatana were internally, of course, but externally they were appearing to be servants in the Muslim government, taking on certain Muslim habits. We sometimes find this, that pure devotees of the Lord, but it's always for a higher purpose. That in this case you could say, to show, there's a famous verse in the 7th chapter of Atmavama verse, Atmavama Strumanayom, that how this subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam is even attractive to even persons on that level who are Brahman realized. It captures their attention. So Sukadeva Goswami is also, being Brahman realized doesn't mean one's an impersonist, by the way. Yes, you have impersonal realization, but it doesn't mean that one's a Mayavadi, which is one who's basically, that's it. Their only kind of objective is to merge. They don't accept the position of subservience to a personality of Godhead. With the Brahmavadi, who's also impersonally realized, when they hear about Krishna, they become attracted, like the Kamaras, for instance. They were also monists. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was also a monist. But when he heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became absorbed in Krishna consciousness. It's also there, because most people who are spiritually advanced are monists. So to show that this subject matter is even attractive to the monist, teaching everyone the essence of Veda is devotional service to Krishna. So, but Sukadeva Goswami, of course, in his constitution is, many may act in the role of Shuka, but the Shuka we're talking about constitutionally, you can say, is eternal. But he may take certain roles. Even we hear about Narada Muni. These eternal associates of the Lord also, to understand, expand into the Lord's pastimes. When the Lord expands, they expand and take certain positions according to the need. It's not that exactly that somebody becomes somebody. That person expands in a particular role, and then they enter back into their original constitution. So they may take on different roles like that. There are many big subjects, you could say, and different angles of understanding that. Basically, it's the Lord's arrangement. For it's in Jai and Vijay. They don't, Prabhupada describes it himself, they don't exactly fall down. They expand to take the roles of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu on the will of the Lord. In simplicity, they fall down. But these eternal associates, they do whatever the Lord wants. They are his limbs, practically. He wants them to act in. Arjuna became illusion. It appears to be illusion by the will of the Lord. He wasn't really illusion, like an ordinary conditioned soul, but for the purpose of the Lord, he appeared to be like an ordinary illusion conditioned soul for a higher purpose. Last question, Ananda.
How do we develop the capacity to ask the right questions? How do we become expert and thoughtful?
The capacity to ask the right question.
To know what are the right questions to ask. And should we become, as explained, expert and thoughtful?
Expert and thoughtful. That we're talking in relationship with Krishna consciousness here. Everybody in the material world asks questions, isn't it? They'll ask questions. Now, right now in France, with people are going to work, I guess, they're asking questions. What are their questions right now? Pardon? Sorry? You're a worker, you're a professional worker. What do you ask at 9 o'clock in the morning?
The first thing is the train going now, like, to get to work actually.
Okay, you may ask what time's the next train, or if you don't know very much, you ask which train, where does it go from, does it stop at such and such a place, and you ask questions about why are you asking those questions? Why are you asking those questions? I might say to you, why are you asking those questions? Well, I've got an appointment there, I have to get to there. Oh, okay. Why do you have an appointment? Well, I want to get a job. Why do you want to get a job? I want to get money. What do you want money? What do you want money for? Well, without money, how will I live? What do you want to live for? I mean, you can go on and on and on. But you've got your goal there. You think that by, this is all part of your goal, isn't it? So if you have a goal, we don't have a goal. You have to have a goal. Purpose. You ask questions according to your purpose. Another person right now, maybe retired like me, 76 years old or something, sitting around in the forest, and sitting around in a cafe somewhere talking about the latest politics and what happened to this one and that one. And I remember when I was a kid, things ain't what they used to be. It's really it's terrible these days. These young kids, they're just they're terrible. They just sit around talking all nonsense, asking questions about the weather, that which is concerning you. And so you may ask what therefore will cause a change in our heart, that we want to change our cause or our purpose in life. And if you really want something, you'll ask questions, right? I mean, people become lazy nowadays. I've always noticed that. Even if they're going the wrong way, they don't ask questions sometimes. We just ask. If you didn't know where you're going, you just ask somebody, excuse me, can you tell me the way? No. I mean, in France, you just say no before you ask the question, but generally we used to ask, which way, can you tell me the way to no? No. No. It's like, okay. But normally you ask questions and somebody will, if they can, you can usually tell they don't know where they're going. Someone's starting to say, well, what was that again? Oh yeah, I know where that is. They don't know what they're talking about. But if someone says, yes, of course, you go down there, turning on the left, you turn down there, second on the right, and you'll see it 200 meters along the road. You feel confident. You know where you're going. You know the person's telling you. Because you know where you're going. If you get on a bus, the conductor will say, where are you going? I say, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. What will he say? That's not a very good question, is it? Very good answer. Until you get off the bus. You have to know where you're going. You're not ready. Get off the bus. Or you ask the driver, where are you going? The driver says, I don't know. You're probably not going to get on the bus. I don't know where I'm going. So we have to associate with someone who knows where they're going. And their association will gradually come. The direction. Well, how do I get there? How do I get there? What do I have to do to get there? But we don't know where we're going, You're not asking any old damn question. Oh, what toothpaste should I use, Maharaj? So many crazy things. Their mind is on toothpaste, teeth. You have to transcend, transcendental. So you have a goal in mind, the right association, hearing in the right association. But the question should be relevant. The word relevant is mentioned. The question should be relevant to our position. Let's say if you have a kid, the questions of the kid are not going to be very transcendental, but they're relevant to the kid at that stage. What is relevant to one is like Sukadeva Goswami being followed by, people thought he was crazy, madman. And the kids are decrying him and people are laughing at him. They don't understand. They're not ready. But when he came into the assembly of sages, they had stood up. Even Vyasadeva stood up. Narada, they all stood up. They recognized he is a self-realized soul. Not that they were also, but still, they recognized also. And they were able then, naturally, because their interest was in that subject matter, so they're going to ask questions related to the personality of Godhead. They're not going to ask questions, well, how was your journey, What did you see on your journey? Did you have a good time? When you passed through Hastinapur, did you call in at that? There's a really good restaurant. Did you call in at the restaurant on the way? Did you see, No, they weren't interested in that. You wanted questions. Yeah. They're relevant to the person. It's like, Prabhupada describes that, when you see a sannyasi or something. How's your wife? See a sannyasi. Say, how's your wife? Are you married? You don't ask those kind of stupid questions, even if they were. You feeling all right? You feeling okay? Maybe sometimes you have to ask that question, but it's not really a very relevant question. According to the situation, you may say that in village talk. According to the situation, so if we want to transcend, then we have to associate. We have to have the will, desire to attain that, and we become more interested to ask questions if that's our goal in life. We tend to ask questions about things we're attached to. Which we like to hear. Exciting, isn't it? Like, where's Emil? He's not. Is Emil here? Emil? No, he's not. Huh? Yeah, okay. So he's very interested to hear about what's going on in Venezuela. Because he lived there. If you hear something about your home country, you want to hear about it, right? Isn't it? Isn't it, Mahabhadra? He's detached from another world. But generally speaking, people do. Have you heard what happened in Australia? Australia? What are they saying about Australia? What happened? Oh, you didn't hear about it? They got conquered by New Zealand. No way. Right? You'll be very eager to find out, right? What's going on down there? As you're identifying with it. A strong identity. And of course, it makes, if we're sincere, we'll make that effort also. It doesn't just happen by chance. We'll make a serious effort to try to inquire, at least by carefully reading. When you read Prabhupada's books, questions will come up. Write them down. Present them. Questions will come up. Don't just read. Thoughtful means we're reading with that, wanting to understand the subject. We're not just mechanics. And then when you try to understand, you'll see that you can't understand because something, maybe a little bit. Then you ask questions related to that, slowly but surely. And then there's a practice. The practice is purification of our hearts. Because one of the reasons we can't see what's written there is because our consciousness is covered. So purify our consciousness through hearing and chanting, service and so on. And things become clearer and clearer. Krishna reveals them as our heart becomes cleansed. So as we surrender. Oh, that's a nice topic. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna.